I've been working in the police for 20 years. In my line of work, I've seen all sorts of things, and I thought it would be difficult to surprise me. However, the information about why and on what scale children are abducted shocked me. I'm a mother of 2 children, and I cannot stand aside and be indifferent when it comes to children. And it doesn't matter whether they are my children or not. Every parent wants to be sure of their child's safety and to let him go outdoors, to school or training without fear. Any mother wants to be free from the fear that her child may be kidnapped, killed or harmed, and that she may never see her child again. The truth is, the children do not just disappear, but tragic and horrible things happen to them afterwards. However, no one wants to think about that. It is even scary to imagine. Yet I'm telling you, imagine it. Try and force yourselves to imagine those scenes, what pedophiles do to children, what children experience when they fall into labor or sexual slavery, production of child pornography, or when they are butchered like canned food for organs. In fact, pedophilia is not even the worst thing that can happen to your child if he or she is missing. There are ritual sacrifices and production of an expensive substance that is extracted from children's bodies through tortures and prolonged torment. Not so long ago, documents of a corporation that claims to be engaged in the production of a certain substance from living children got on the internet. According to the surfaced information, they can produce large amounts of this substance from one child. As a result, they have a profit of 5 million. Imagine it's only from one child. That's a huge business. It is more profitable than trading weapons, organs, or narcotic drugs. You can find this information on the internet yourselves. Essentially, this information is about potential serious crimes that require careful investigation, verification, and an appropriate response from relevant authorities. Having data only from my own country, I used to think that not so many children go missing. However, after studying European and global statistics, I realized how wrong I was. According to official data alone, about 250,000 children are reported missing every year in Europe. The world is highly unstable nowadays. Any military conflict and climate-related catastrophe, as well as many other events, lead to chaos and disorder when nobody can control or track anything. In such situations, a great many children disappear. Entire schemes are now being uncovered, even in civilized countries like Spain, where doctors, nurses and nuns were involved in secret abduction of children from their parents. Often such disappearance of children isn't even considered kidnapping because parents are told, for instance, that their child has died. These schemes include adoption, surrogacy with the intention of selling a child, and kidnapping children abandoned due to anonymous maternal rejection. Such cases often go unreported in the statistics of child disappearance. Children are even abducted from streets or strollers in broad daylight during peacetime. And the truth is that no one is protected and no one is immune. So it's important to address this problem in society. There is no guarantee that this won't happen to your child. Do you believe someone will be there to step up for your child? Will anyone protect him or her? And the most crucial question is, are you that very person who would step up for someone else's child and defend them? No one will protect our children except ourselves. So what can each of us do to prevent such trouble? Let me give you several key recommendations. First, it is necessary to teach your child basic rules and safety measures. What he or she should do to avoid getting lost or kidnapped. Children must know how to act in various situations if they suddenly find themselves unaccompanied by parents. Remember, that children are trusting. In 90% of cases, no matter how much you teach them not to talk to strangers and not to follow them, a child may still strike up a conversation and follow a stranger. In cartoons, villains are depicted as frightening, so you can immediately see they are the bad guys. However, abductors of children often have a prepossessing appearance. They may entice a child with a pet. For example, a young man or woman may be walking their dog near a playground, and a child might follow such a person to play with the doggy. It's important to explain to your child that they should never go anywhere with anyone, no matter what the pretext may be. And it is also crucial to remind children of that from time to time. Remember that you shouldn't scare your child. Instead, try to calmly explain how to act, or you can even imitate specific situations in a playful manner with the child. It's great if your family has a secret code phrase, and if you don't have one, it is worth inventing it. This will come in handy if you ever ask someone you know to pick up your child, for example, from school or daycare. Of course, the child should insist on hearing the secret code phrase or word. Moreover, parents should also warn their child in advance that the stranger will pick him or her up. The secret code word or phrase can also be helpful in situations where your child needs to inform you that he or she is in danger. Another situation that can possibly occur is the following. If there's a conflict between an adult and a child in public, and you suspect that the child is being abducted, for instance, you see someone pulling his hand, speaking loudly, the child is crying while someone is trying to take the child somewhere, what should you do in this case? Firstly, approach the child at a distance of a little more than an outstretched arm's length. This distance is enough for you to be clearly heard and not to appear as a threat. Secondly, turn on the camera on your phone and record what is happening. This may be useful later during the search of the child and the potential criminals. Ask them loudly and clearly, "Is this your child?" Loud speech attracts the attention of passers-by. The third thing you can do is ask the child if he or she needs help and if the child knows that person. If the child is in shock, asking loud and clear questions can help bring him or her out of this state. The next step you can take in this situation is as follows. If you suspect a child is being abducted, call the police. Don't be afraid to intervene in this situation, because any talk with a potential criminal can make them give up their actions and can draw unnecessary attention to them. In any case, if the situation seems strange to you, contact the police. You don't even need to talk to a person who seems suspicious to you. You can go around the corner and just call the police. Another possible situation is when you become a witness to a child abduction. In this case, do not remain indifferent and do not just pass by. There are no someone else's children. Draw the attention of other adults nearby to what is happening. Shout loudly and assert that the child is being abducted. Ask for help. Immediately contact the police yourself or ask another person nearby to do so. If possible, follow the abductor and do not lose his sight. Record everything that is happening on your phone camera. If after your interference, the suspected criminal attempts to flee, leaving the child behind, do not chase them. Instead, stay with the child to ensure his or her safety. If you realize that you can physically apprehend the child abductor, either on your own or together with other people, try to do so. You have a legal right to perform a citizen arrest to take the criminal to the police. It is acceptable to use physical force, but make sure it doesn't go beyond the extent necessary for detaining a person. In other words, refrain from deliberately causing severe harm. If you witness a child being forcibly put into a car and you cannot prevent this in any way, make sure to record the vehicle data, including on your camera, its color, brand, model, and license plate number, as well as how many people are in the car, and try to identify their gender. Also, you should be particularly vigilant and attentive to children who happen to be nearby during natural disasters, emergencies, or armed conflicts. If you know that children from your neighborhood are left without adult supervision, take care of them and do not leave them alone. Remember that such children often become victims of criminals. This information hardly covers all the aspects, but it can help you find your way in an emergency situation. People must be informed about the scale of this problem and understand how to act. Forewarned means forearmed. In most cases, when we witness child kidnapping or other non-standard situations and do nothing or simply walk by, it's not even indifference, but often trite ignorance of how to act. Another reason for inaction is fear for our own life or well-being, while sometimes it is simply a reluctance to disturb our usual way of living. The paradox is that when a child disappears, it is quite easy to mobilize search teams, sometimes involving 1,000 or even 2,000 people who comb the area. By that moment, you already know that you are in no danger. If there was an abductor, they are already gone. And we understand perfectly well that with a high degree of probability, only a child's corpse will be found, if they find anything at all. Everyone is brave enough to join the search. But where were those thousands of people before? And what did they do to prevent the child from disappearing, from being kidnapped? It is easier to prevent a child from disappearing than to search for them later. As practice shows, if a child was maliciously abducted and didn't get lost by accident or leave home for personal reasons, then finding him or her after 24 hours is almost unrealistic. Within a day, a child could be taken to another country and you won't be able to find them anymore. I would like to emphasize that we should not shift responsibility onto the police or any other organizations. We ourselves must take an active part in preventing such crimes, especially those related to child abduction. Be aware that when you see a child in the street who needs help, and you walk by with your eyes down, trying to distract yourself with your own problems, justifying that you're too busy, have no time to stop and help, or thinking about your own family and the potential bad consequences of your interference for yourself, you should know this. If you pass by and do nothing, you become an accomplice to what happens to that child later, no matter what excuses you might come up with. Your disbelief, your passiveness, your unwillingness to acknowledge the problem, and your denial of the existence of such a problem in society can cost many children their lives, possibly even your own children. According to statistics in Europe, a report about a missing child is received every 2 minutes. Count how many children someone has taken away in an unknown direction while you were watching this video. We cannot even imagine what some freak is doing to someone's child right now while their mother is trying to find them. We all live in our own little worlds. The sun is shining, the weather is beautiful, and it seems to us that such terrible things cannot happen in this world. However, at this very moment, someone is abducting a child right from a stroller, or perhaps even in a house next to yours, someone is brutally torturing an infant. So our only option is to prevent the act of child kidnapping, be vigilant, and acknowledge that there are no someone else's children.